Yo, yo, yo.
What's happening, man? How are you, sir?
What it be like, Pastor Jeff? What it be like on a Sunday night?
Woo, brother, tired,
You
but I'm
tired.
here.
You
Sunday
tired.
night service, man.
Brother,
I'm
two
tired.
communion services, and I coached a doubleheader for Ethan's basketball squad. Which, listen, let me just say this before we get into our current event subject. Coaching little kids is the absolute worst. Don't let them watch this show. Don't let them watch the show. I don't care. Coaching little kids, 6, 7, or 8 years old. Man, I almost clapped this boy myself. I mean, I almost went right on the court and just clapped this little boy. I said, I am not your mama. I will jack you up. But I co-coach Ethan's Upward Basketball League. Big shout out to Upward Sports. I'm just joking, y'all. I'm a good Christian at Warren First Assembly of God. And Ethan had buckets tonight, Pastor Jeff. You would have been proud of him. He was Kobe all night, man.
Yeah, buckets.
28 points, 10 steals, 28 points, 10 steals, 3 assists. Because you know these kids don't pass, so they ain't no assists. They've been watching Kobe all their life. But him and his other little boy, man, they killed it.
Hey, every time I come over, me and Ethan play, I know how he do. I know how Ethan get down.
He's a bulldog, man. He's a bulldog. So I'm proud of him. Man. What's going on in the Stanford world?
Man, everything is well, man. We can't complain. 2 funerals this weekend, man. Right after work. But it was good, man. I want to give a great big shout out as we get started, man, to Pastor Harrison, Pastor Paramore, and Pastor Mark on their revival. I think
Pastor Mark Jackson.
Yes, Pastor Mark Jackson. I know they had a goal of like 3,000. They got like 5,000 to City Kids Care.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So I mean, that is just phenomenal. And I mean, I was only fortunate enough to make it out to see Pastor Paramore, but dude, he wrecked the house. And I mean,
I was watching.
It was great seeing all the people out and seeing that, just so many people come out for an event like that. It's just phenomenal. So,
I'll be transparent, man. I'll be transparent. Sometimes as times change, and I grew up on tent revivals, and I grew up on the 7-day joints.
Right.
The 7-day joints. It was us, Greater Apostolic Faith Church, Church of the Living God, and it was somebody else, man. And I mean, you talking about the men sleeping overnight in the tent with the equipment and stuff like that. I'm like, bro, y'all are devoted to the cause. You are all devoted. I always joke with Fernando. His dad, man, was the funniest. Deacon Phillips was the funniest guy. Bless his soul. Even when the guys would ride by playing like the loud music, he would run to the edge of the street and start yelling Jesus at him and rebuking the car stereos.
That needs to be on video there,
bro. I wish I had it on video. I wish we had cell phones at that time, man, because he ran straight out there. In the name of Jesus, ain't gonna be no Tupac or Biggie up in this.
You know what I did like, man? I did like about them, and Pastor Paramore made mention of it. He said when Pastor Harrison first brought this up, he's the first people he called was not churches, not his members, he said the first person he called was the guy we had on not too long ago, Albert Cat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He said Albert Cat went and got the license. He said he made sure the yard was trimmed. He made sure he talked to all the neighbors so they knew what was going on. I mean, and to have that relationship with the hood and the holy, I think is just phenomenal. So I just think that's a great thing.
And I just want to say that, I kind of lost faith in the whole outdoor worship, tent thing, and to watch it and watch God's Spirit move, it kind of takes you back and it reminds you. And I think all of us need to be humble sometimes, that sometimes it's the simple organic things that really matter. There's nothing wrong with the excellence in ministry that we have sort of aspired to. We do things differently now, but ain't nothing wrong with a little hand clap, foot stomping under a tent.
Absolutely.
Until the sun goes down. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with being the church. So we appreciate all you guys for doing that. The story of the day, Pastor Jeff, and man, I just thought of something that I didn't say to your pre-show, so I'm gonna just throw it at you. But there's been a lot going on with missing persons, especially this young lady, Gabby was her first name, who went missing on a camping trip apparently, and this gentleman, not speaking, can't be found. And they did find the young lady's body. And the explosion came, Pastor Jeff, about how come when Black sisters come up missing, and we've even seen Latino, Black, basically anybody of color, Native Americans. Apparently, there's an incredibly high rate of situations, similar murders, kidnappings, whatever. They just don't get the attention, man, and it just feels like so 50-ish.
It is.
I mean, this young lady is innocent. She's a child. She is not a political marker. She's not a martyr for us to make a point off of. But you can't help but notice the disparity of so many young Black women and sometimes brothers. I think there was a brother who went to he was from Alabama, I think at Indiana University, and he came up missing and they found his body, and there was barely any traction nationwide. So do you feel like the media man is just still stuck on, like, you got to be blonde haired, suburban girl, this, that, or the other to get any attention?
Absolutely. And obviously we cannot put everybody under that or on that type of platform. But here's the thing, I'm a big TikTok fan. While I'm at work, I watch TikTok all night. But, on one of the TikToks I watched, they literally mentioned about 10 young Black men who were missing in Ohio. And we literally have to say, let's make this go viral ourselves.
Right. We got to force it. We got to force it.
Why isn't it? Let's share this. Let's like this. Let's make this go viral so that somebody, and so, while, we have a whole world looking for one white man or well, looking for him now, but looking for the white girl before, there's 10 brothers in Youngstown or in Ohio, that are missing that, is just blase, oh well.
So is it just, are there certain realities we just have to face and live with? And that is that this is a numbers game. And as long as we are a minority, then that means that a minority of the people are going to be the ones shouting these issues. And so if 65% of the population is white and it's a white girl, you're just going to have more people sharing it. And maybe we have to live with that reality. It's not necessarily racism as much as it is mathematics, that we don't have the same critical mass. And we all know we don't own the TV stations, and we all know what images already get. But I mean, maybe a part of that, and I'll go another step further before I blow it open with some foolishness. And we do have a tendency, as much as we celebrate Black Twitter and Black Facebook and all this stuff, a lot of it lends itself towards the foolish, stupid stuff, so that when serious issues do come along, they're drowned in so many memes and dumb videos. And, it's like, it's hard to focus anyway. Where the other side, let's be honest, man, I don't even mean to make it political, but our conservative, our white friends, man, when they get on something, they are on it. They are on it. They still talking about stop the steal. They still talking about, they don't get off of that. They do not get off.
They still think Trump won.
So. That's what I'm saying. I mean, they don't get off of it. So we do, though. We are very transient in our thoughts. We go in 1,000 different directions. Somebody can be singing a national anthem on a football game tonight and hit a wrong note, and that'll be on our minds for the next month. And whoever was missing, we ain't talking about. Let's be honest.
We're looking, and it's very, because most times we're looking for the next big thing. We're looking for the next meme. We're looking for the next joke. We're looking for the next person to make us go viral. It's not even really about the actual news that's taking place. It's how many likes and shares are we going to get when, the reality is that people are hurting and people are going through situations.
Well, here's the foolishness I need to bring out before Mike waves us off. While they are chasing after Gabby, we all defending our decision to keep listening to R. Kelly after he being convicted 19 times for, exploiting all these young ladies. I'm serious. I mean, we got people making more heartfelt defenses of why they are still going to play his music. And I'm not on either side at this point, even though I will not. I actually took some songs off some playlists. I just kind of had old R&B playlists. That's hilarious. The CNN alert just came up talking about bringing R. Kelly to justice. Stop listening to me, phone. So we argued over R. Kelly internally over these young ladies. Let's be clear. They were exploited. We arguing whether the parents should be held accountable, whether this should happen, that should happen, which to a degree they should. But the way I look at it is a man is a monster and the monster is a man. And so he is the one. I don't care if somebody's mama threw their child at me butt naked. I make a choice not to exploit that young lady. I make a choice to decide you're 16, you're 17. I don't care if you're 19 or 20 at this point. I'm too grown for all that foolishness anyway. You know, and we're playing that game, and then we wonder why we can't get the world or even our own community to concentrate on one cause of our own missing people. Because truth be told, if they're missing and the person that kidnapped them is famous enough, we ain't gonna really defend them anyway. So we only go after the people that aren't R&B stars. Those are the ones that we wanted to see get arrested. So I mean, I'm just blown away by how we can be so indignant on one end and have these strong convictions and these opinions. Oops, we good? Okay. And then looking for ways to defend monsters in the same breath.
Now, let's just say, you know, and I know we don't got a lot of time, but I do want to throw this up, that I did hear from a reliable source that they may be about to close Youngstown City schools back down based upon COVID. Not only COVID, but, and this is not funny. This is not funny, but I guess
it's about to be funny.
I guess somebody's going around shooting kids in the butt with BB guns.
Okay. That is funny, actually. As long as it's only a BB gun, I'll call it funny.
But it's just, it's crazy. So, I mean, you know, y'all just prepare, you know, y'all kids, you know, maybe coming back home.
Yeah, we already got our tablets, so we're ready for it. We're ready for it to happen. But, you know, rest in peace to the young lady and to all that are missing. But, you know, let's give the same attention to the Black people. And by the way, Black people, let's stop defending the monsters in our own community. I said it. I'm not taking it back. So switching gears, our sponsors for the night, who is not a monster, Phillips Care Cleaning Service. They take care of residential, commercial cleaning, floor cleaning, basic upholstery, carpet cleaning, wood floor, move in, move out. I'm a personal testimony to their good work. You can call Fernando at 330-219-7916. They service the entire Mahoning Valley and beyond. They do an amazing job. Check out Phillips Care Cleaning Service. And while you're at it, it's fall. Leaves are falling. I'm already tired of raking them up. You might as well check out Phillips Care Lawn Services. They do cutting, mowing, edging, trimming, leaf collection, and they've been at it for over 10 years in the Mahoning Valley. They'll do your lawn starting at $30, excuse me. Again, the Phillips Care family of businesses are proud sponsors of Religiously Incorrect podcast. You can contact Fernando for any of your services at 330-219-7916. And as an addendum to our promotion and sponsor, we also offer our condolences to the Phillips family and the loss of their loved one. They lost a dear sister this week, and she was a precious dear sister, and we're going to miss her very, very much. And we're lifting up the whole crew, the whole clan, the Golden Phillips clan in our prayers. So tonight, our episode is called Family Matters. Is that what we call it tonight? Family Matters? Is that what it was called? I almost forgot.
It's good enough. It's close enough.
It's close enough. Just think of some family show. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We don't care. Whatever. Doesn't matter. And we are talking about the family tonight. And we're talking about the emotional connections, the mental strength of the family. We've talked about mental health several times, as a matter of fact, as it concerns individuals, as it concerns men. But we really wanted to tap into the dynamic between youth and their parents, adults, their guardians, and how our families can be healthy and whole. And our guest today is a wonderful brother who is the Northeast Regional Director of the Village Network, which is a service agency in our community that is servicing families, youth, and their parents. And they offer a variety of services, but also he is a minister. He is a brother in the Lord. He is a part of our community. And I want you all to give a big religiously incorrect welcome to Mr. Chuck Baldwin. Give it up with the hand claps, the hand waves, the like. No laughing emojis. Don't laugh at them. No laughing emojis. How are you doing tonight, Brother Baldwin?
Gentlemen, I'm fine, and I really appreciate this opportunity to be here with you, and I consider it a great honor.
Well, we're glad to have you. We're glad you stuck around. Usually we lose a guest or two after we cut up in the first 10 minutes and the guest decides we're not worth hanging around. But thank you for staying on. We appreciate you.
I wouldn't have it any other way, brothers.
Oh, love it, love it, love it. So real quick, just tell us about yourself first, in 2 or 3 sentences, and then tell us about what you do, and then we can unpack some discussion from there.
Well, I am a product of Mahoning Valley. Okay, I went to elementary school, junior high school, graduated from Youngstown State, undergrad, graduate degrees. And I worship at our church, serving in many capacities, from in the music ministry as well as our youth department. And I'm just very concerned that we've got a lot of issues going on in our community, but our community, we're not our issues. There's a lot of good people. There's a lot of good things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to see more of that. What you brothers are doing here is right where we need to be. And I agree with you. I think religiously, we have to take God into our professional realities, such as the mental health, and teaching people that they're more than the problems and the crises that they face. I don't want you to see me as a problem. I need you to see me as a valuable creature of God and take time to understand my story. And then we can talk about my emotional difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
And if we get in front of it, we can minimize the mental health issues that sometimes spiral out of control because we haven't addressed it. And we as a people, we're extremes. We don't like to talk about problems of our emotions. Black men, we don't like to say we're hurt.
Right.
Black women don't like to say, I need somebody to help me. I can do this on my own. I am woman, hear me roar. Okay. I'm a Black woman. I know how to do this. And we have our kids now who are living in such daily trauma, they don't even dream about living past 18 or getting to 18. In Chicago, there's a funeral home, from what was shared with me, where young people who are out in the street are prepaying for their funerals.
Wow. Wow.
Brothers, that tells me we got to learn how to present Jesus in a much different way. Much different way. He's concerned about our infirmities. And our schools, you were saying, Pastor Stanford, Youngstown's closing schools. Then we got to find another way to educate our kids. One of the things we did, we brought the kids to our offices. We worked with them on their iPads and connected with the school. We connected with families. We worked with the school, getting the food to the families with the school. It's not just about me and my small area concern about what impacts me. If I'm not concerned about my brother and my sister, it's going to spill over into my life.
Right.
Elder Baldwin, I like to say oftentimes, let's not judge anybody's choices until you review their options. And I think a lot of young
That's
kids
good.
don't have. I think a lot of young kids don't have options. Their options are so limited based upon the family and the structure that they grew up in. And so, whereas in, you know, I can even go back as far as myself. You know, for me, even in the 8th grade, or not in the 8th grade, 9th grade, I remember coming up to Warren, and I'm like, they got swimming pools, they got, they got swimming pools in their school, they got tennis rackets and all that stuff. Whereas in, Youngstown City schools didn't have that. And so your options oftentimes leads you to the choices that you end up making. And so I think, and you can tell me what you guys do as far as what you do in your work, giving kids more options outside of what they see, because oftentimes they feel stuck and feel the only way to get out is by, looking at people who may be able to get out, but they're getting out in wrong ways. So what are some of the choices and what are some of the ways we can help these young kids make better options in their life?
One of the things about social work 101, and I said it earlier, we have to meet people where they are.
Right.
If I give you an option that you don't know how to operate because you never had the experience, you've never met it before, it's useless. It's all about relationship. Pastor Stanford, you have to teach me how to help you.
That's good.
I don't know your story. I don't know what your experiences are. All I can tell you is I care about you. Help me help you. I have to do it with the kids. I have to let the parents know I'm not against you. I want to partner with you to help you through this. I don't care how many degrees we have. I don't care how many PPE funds come my way. If it's not relationship based, to teach me, to help me understand how do I help you navigate out of the place you're in to get to the next level or another situation, then we can't work with you.
Wow. And it's so true that's the hard work. It's tedious. It's long. It does not bear quick fruit. And from ministry to service programs or whatever, the fact of the matter is, we talk a lot about these kids are the microwave generation, they're the fast food generation, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Those of us who are in adult situations, positions of influence and running programs or ministries, we have the same mentality too. We want things quick and fast. We want everyone's problem solved with a sermon or a few appointments, or we throw money at problems, or we build this building and you can build all the community centers you want, and they'll be tore up without people who have been taught to value, not because they are low animalistic individuals, but because what you just said, there is a need for relationship building. And unfortunately, that's not sexy. No. Relationship building is not what gets you Grammy Awards and, invited to the White House and billboards on this side of the road. But what you just said about you have to teach me how to help you by getting to know your story. And if you would give us an example of the types of people that you interact with, like who comes to you with an issue in a family sense, and just give us a typical, just template of a Doe family. They come to you with what circumstance, what drives them to have to seek out the services that you have to offer.
There a variety of needs in our community. We have grandparents raising grandchildren. and in some cases, great-grandchildren.
Right.
That's one set. We have single mothers raising children. We have older brothers taking care of younger siblings. We have parents who are homeless, living in shelters, trying to send their kids to school without them having to share the embarrassment of their immediate circumstance. We have it all. And then we have those who are not living in poverty as we know it in our community, but who are the working poor.
Wow.
Middle-class people who have also been affected by the pandemic and other hardships in life.
Right. Do you find that it's a trauma that gets them to you, or do they just recognize their hardship, or is it something that kind of ends up forcing their hand, so to speak? Like something gets out of hand in their household, maybe legally something happens with a young person or a family member. What is it that gets somebody through the door with you?
It's an involuntary situation in a lot of cases. But our cases in the schools where we work with families, what we do is partner.
Gotcha.
I don't want you telling me my kid has a mental health issue. I don't want you making me feel like I'm an unfit parent. I want to know, are you willing to understand my story, have a relationship with me as a professional, and help me navigate through this crisis I found myself in? Non-judgmental.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And I hope, so sometimes circumstances, like with all of us, life is going on, you're used to certain hardships, but then you get hit in the face with a crisis and it stops your world.
Right.
That gets the ball rolling in many cases.
Go ahead, Pastor Jeff.
Pastor Todd, you know as well as I do, you'll have a couple who's been married for 6 years and the husband is cheating, the wife is cheating. All of a sudden they want to come to the church for counseling. And, their first thing is, well, we got counseled by you before we got married. Well, I haven't seen y'all since we had the counseling,
Right.
The counseling is just a prerequisite for me marrying you. You still need to, find a place in the church, find something to do. We need to talk, periodically. You can't just now all of a sudden after 6 years come back to me and say, well, you the one counseled us to get married.
Well, that's a part of that independent streak we all deal with. And as Mr. Baldwin said, nobody wants to admit they have that problem until the elephant is basically squeezing them out of the room. Right. And then there's this stigma. And unfortunately, our society does not help. And I'll be honest, I'm getting a little frustrated that we use the right language when there isn't something in front of our faces. We are talking in our Black communities, in our church communities, and just worldwide about mental health. We are talking about people's conditions in a more open manner. But it's easy to talk about until you actually see someone or experience something. And then we do go back to the right back to the shame, right back to the jokes, right back to the ostracizing people. And I think that individuals who find themselves in this situation, they know it. They know that after you get done pontificating about how you care about the mental health of students and families, how we care in the church, they know that if their child goes off and gets caught on the news or on a viral clip and everybody sees them act out, or they get a reputation for being in a certain circumstance or situation, that the jokes are going to fly, the rumors are going to go. Even school officials and even authorities tend to say, yeah, that's just old crazy Jim and his family. They're always a problem on such and such street. And I think that scares people away from seeking help because nobody wants that spotlight shined. And quite frankly, they know how cruel people can be. So that when an agency comes along, an individual, and it can be a pastor, it can be a social worker, they come along truly caring. There are so many layers of distrust and guilt and sort of public, that shell you put on, that shell of just protecting, which ends up being detrimental. But you have to peel those layers away. And all of us are guilty for not taking the time to allow that process to happen. And that's where professionals do come in, because I'll tell anybody, I'm a pastor. I am not a professional counselor. I am not a professional social worker. There are some things that are beyond my expertise. And let's just be honest. I'll be honest if nobody else will, beyond my patience. I'm preaching this 35-minute sermon and I'm putting Jesus on the cross and getting him back down, by the last 4 minutes. And then I might teach a lesson 10 minutes longer than that. But week after week after week after week, working with a family that is in a cycle of dysfunction, I won't pretend like I'm always in the right frame of mind and or spirit to do that. And that's where partnerships are vital. And I think that the next step that the church needs to take is not just talking about mental health and talking about emotional stability and family stability, but partnering with the people who this is their specialty. And if at all possible, they do have a kingdom mindset, a Christian mindset behind it, but actually being able to refer people to where they can get the help while we are yet praying, yet ministering, yet preaching, yet giving opportunities to be a part of the fellowship. Hey, I'll pray for you, but you need to go take a Tylenol. I'll pray for you, but you need to go call Mr. Baldwin and set up an appointment and see how his services can help you. And I think churches need to take the next step. I'm almost to the point where almost every single church should have some direct mental health referral or emotional health referral source, just like the courts have learned to do, just like the schools have learned to do. The church is one of the last bastions. We preach it, but we don't do it. And so if you could give me a ideal model, Brother Baldwin, because you're talking to two pastors, what would be an ideal model of partnership that if you could get some churches to be thinking about not just you and your agency in a promotional sense, but just what you do and what other agencies like you around the country do, how would you want us to interact? And at what juncture would you like us to get families involved with places like the Village Network?
There's a couple of things, and I really appreciate you being transparent, pastors, because I think as shepherds of your house, you always avail yourselves to what your members need. My wife and I we were talking earlier today, and because everybody knows that I am a counselor by trade. And I've also always been involved with our young people at our church who are now older people, have their own children. And sometimes when there are some issues in families, they often come to me. But I think that's what hinders us. I'm a minister by call. I'm a counselor by trade. And you don't have the ability to separate my call from my vocation.
Wow.
That's major.
Simply stated, I think now, because of the complexities in our society, our church has to say, my job is to get you in the presence of God, to get you to heaven. I'm going to refer you to the professionals to help you address your emotional needs right now.
Right. That heaven-bound mentality has actually hurt many families and many people, because we're so busy talking about the hereafter that we're not ministering to people here. And let's go one step further and tell the truth and shame the devil. And we try to attribute everything to a demon. Everything is a call them up to the front and cast it out, which our professional sides does not take away our spiritual convictions and our belief that there is very strong spiritual. But once the spiritual has impacted the mental, once the spiritual has impacted the emotions, you can cast that spirit out and you still got cleanup work to do.
Oh,
you can pray for that person and you still got therapy.
It's not like a sprint. Yeah, it's not a 100-yard dash.
Absolutely.
You've got to be willing to walk this thing out.
Right.
Okay. And stay honest. My bishop used to say all the time, before he transitioned, he said, there's a difference between telling the truth and being honest. Mental health counseling requires you to be honest. You can tell me the truth and give me facts. That's all truth is. Honesty says facts with motives. Put the story behind the facts.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes it's parents, pastors, other lay people working in the church. We can't do that effectively with our cleric collars on because they perceive us differently. And they give us what we want to hear.
Right.
You know, but I think we start like we do with doctors and nurses. You get a cut on your hand, you call a nurse, you go to the doctor. When you are having trouble with your emotions, our young men in school, they get called to the office because they're being aggressive. They need anger management. You're dealing with the anger you see.
Right.
You got to say, what is making me angry? It's causing me to be depressed. It's causing me not to want to deal with this situation. So you're just getting the effect of my hurt.
Right. And so what you're saying is oftentimes that, the school system or even some of the people, we might be dealing with the what and not the why, because there's an underlying issue. And oftentimes what's oblivious to others is obvious to those who are anointed. And I can just tell you a couple months ago, Pastor Todd, and I'm not going to say any names, Pastor Todd and I were talking about an individual, and Pastor Todd said, nah, y'all can say what y'all want to say, but something is wrong. You remember what I'm talking about? Something is wrong with that person. Y'all can say they doing this. Something is there's an issue, there's an underlying issue there. And so we have to be able to see past, beyond the covers, beyond the sheets.
Right.
She's not just quiet because she's a quiet person. She's quiet because somebody's raping her at night.
Right.
She's quiet because one of her family members is molesting her, and we have to see that. And those are the times that we need, institutions like yours where we can call and say, I'm not for sure, but there's something off here. How do I handle this, and how can I help her or them in this issue, in this transition? Because as you know, it goes back much further than most of us were alive, that what happens in this house stays in this house. And so we keep quiet too often.
And the church too.
Oh, yes.
And our silence will take us to the grave.
Yeah.
Right.
Amen.
Right.
And what do you say, Mr. Baldwin? Because, you know, I admit I dabble in this, and it's probably wrong, but every once in a while I'm just like, that kid just needs a good whooping. He ain't been whooped enough. You know, because the talk from our community is, we're not as disciplined, we're not as hard, we're not controlling the, you know, the household as much. Give him a weekend with me and I'll straighten him out, and he won't be bouncing all over the place, and he won't be acting aggressive, or she won't have an attitude. Is there any room for that? And I'm asking you honestly to answer it, both in your profession but also as a Black man, because we all know the norms we were raised on. Or do you take more of who was the NFL player? I think it was Chris Carter, back when Adrian Peterson was getting in trouble for disciplining his children. And Chris Carter cried on TV and said, I don't care who thinks that's the way it should have been done. It's wrong, and we were hurt by it, and we shouldn't be doing that. Where does what we would call old school discipline, basically corporal punishment, you know, is that just all toxic? If you ain't allowed to say, because, you know, I don't want you getting no phone calls tomorrow. But is that all toxic, or do you see there are some issues?
My wife is listening to me.
She's listening to you.
and let me tell you, there's two things. I'm old school.
So whoop him. He said it. He said it, y'all. He said whoop him.
No,
he said go get a switch.
I used to think that.
I heard where you was going with that. I heard you were saying go get a switch.
I'm old school. I think our young Black boys, and I think men, period, we respect consistent structure.
Mm-hmm.
I think too much to the left and too much to the right isn't good. I think what we haven't done with our Black boys enough to let them know that they belong to us, right or wrong. But they got to know there's consequences. Now, my son just will say he didn't stay out of jail because he was afraid of going to jail. He was scared of coming to me. We parent like we were parented. Now that I know better, I have to do better. I have to be firm, but I have to be fair. And I have to keep them out of prison and alive at all costs. Again, brothers, corporal punishment is a quick fix, but it doesn't handle the internal anguish that a kid is dealing with. And that's what we missed in the corporal punishment.
Right.
And that's why we have so many of our kids don't know how to deal with internal conflict. And I think we got to get better at that.
I think that word consistency was essential. It's not always, it wasn't even always the corporal punishment. It was the fact that what you said, that person knew that they belonged to someone who cared about them enough to stay on them.
Mm-hmm.
And that as a father, and I know Jeff has the same feeling that I do, as stern fathers who keep our boys in line and are the men that we strive to be the right type of men. We see so many other young men who don't have that. It's not about looking for a reason to whoop our children or punch them. We truth be told, we rarely do it at all. Jeff hugs his son all the time. That's his whooping, his hugs. Jeff be like, oh, come here, son. You crashed my car into a tree. let me hug it out of you. But it's the stern voice, it's the strong hand with the loving heart. Yes. Many of my children, honestly, it's not about me putting a hand on them because I don't have to do that very often. It's about my presence, my expectation, my love. They're more afraid of disappointing me than they are being disciplined by me. And that comes from the consistency. It's not because you know what? There's a lot of young families out there, especially younger families and some older ones, that are still popping their kids every chance they get, but there's nothing behind it.
Right.
They're just popping because they're mad because they messed up their night, or they interrupted their TV show, or they messed up their weed smoking session. So when the baby come running in, they want to punch him in the head and tell him to get in the other room. But again, and they're swearing up and down, they're doing like grandma did. That is not the way grandma did it. Grandma had something else behind that. Grandma was also on her knees praying for them babies every night. She was also greasing their heads every morning for school, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. And there are different, like you said, different aspects to this that really the corporal punishment is not really the main thing that keeps a young person in line. It's the love.
It's the love. And you hit it. I tell my staff, we have residential facilities or we have foster care. I said, our kids and outpatient counseling, where we are at on Belmont in Youngstown, 2401 Belmont, and also at the Focus Center in Warren. Our kids respond to us in a positive way because they don't want to disappoint us. It's that R word, relationship. Relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Relationship means I'll respect you as a child. I'll restore you back to your rightful place when you make an error. With me, it's the love, consistent love.
Yeah.
Audience, if y'all have any questions, please, for Elder Baldwin, please comment it, type them in, and so we can try to get them answered in the next couple minutes. You know, Pastor Todd mentioned how, you know, I love hugging my kids. I do. I absolutely love hugging them, but it's based upon how I was raised. And, you know, my upbringing was a lot different than most people's. You know, I thought that I was abused. You know, I really still feel that way. And, you know, although I have a fond passion for my stepdad and for my mom, but I can vividly remember my cousin Camille coming to get me, and after I had just got a terrible whooping, whatever it was, you know, what belt and all kind of stuff, and she took me over her house, which was right around the corner, and I don't even remember this happening, but my Aunt Diane tells me this, and she says that she, you know, lifted up my shirt and she saw all the scars, and she looked at me and she just began to cry, and she said that I know some way or another you're going to end up being, you know, used by God. But she wanted to call and, basically just tell on what happened. And, you know, my mother wouldn't allow her. My mother said, you know, let us handle this, you know, blase. But while we're trying to handle this secretly, I'm steadily getting beat. My mother's getting beat. You know, everybody's getting beat in the house. And so, you know, when I temper and talk to my son, it's out of love. It's not because that anger, I would never want that anger to come up that I saw when I was a kid.
Right.
I would want him to feel like I felt. And so I think that, and, you know, I thank God, I think I turned out to be an all right person, but I think there are a lot of other people going through various and similar situations that didn't turn out as well, who actually end up beating the kids the same way that they got beat. Right. So I think that, you know, we have to be able to speak up and speak out and allow people to know that, you know, even when I would see the whoopings on TV and they would say, well, you know, I'm going to give you a spanking, but I'm going to tell you why I'm going to spank you first. You know, no, I just came in the house and you just hit me. What I do?
Right.
What I do to hit? You know what I mean? So there has to be reasons and you know, and love behind what you do. So
yeah, I hear you, Pastor Stafford. As I said earlier, when we know better, we do better. We parent the way we were parented.
Absolutely.
And you know, I got the switches and the belts. I got them, and they told me, you know, if you run, it's gonna be worse.
Right.
I
Right.
said, well, you're gonna have to catch me.
Right. Right.
I'm out. But it was a way that we were brought up. So again, we got to teach in our community. There's another way. And I feel horribly that you had to experience that. And I know what that's like. I got it too. But that's all they knew. And I'm
Right.
telling you, as a professional, all I could see, if I didn't stop my son, and he didn't get beat every day, but there were some days you wouldn't listen to me, and I had to pop that behind because I didn't want a policeman getting to him.
Right. Right.
Or I didn't want him in a casket out here in the street dealing with.
Well, we have to deal with that reality because Black and poor families, especially, that's our fear, is that if we're not handling it like this in here, somebody else will do much worse out there. That
Right.
we are so traumatized, even historically and through generation, by trauma, mistreatment, and injustice, that we're almost being a persecutor and a protector at the same time.
Right.
And at the same, and also, as Pastor Jeff said, passing along trauma we've received from others.
Right.
To the
Right.
point that we don't even realize mentally how dysfunctional the behavior is because it is so normalized to us. We're just passing it along to take some weight off of ourselves. I did want to highlight what Big Mike commented, saying that even if someone is having problems and want help, and I mean, I'll form it in the frame of a question. He says, do they really want to put in the work to get through it? The counselor has a role, but there's work on their part. And what do you do and what lines do you draw with families, whether it's a family that brings a young person that has a struggle or the whole family you're trying to bring together in a certain situation where you're not seeing the work? And I'll make a quick analogy. When I was coming along around my boy's age, I needed braces. My teeth were very bad, very bucktooth, and at a certain point, I had to wear certain things at night and do certain things. I was the most uncooperative orthodontist patient in the world, to the point that at a point that they welded in that headgear thing, and you will not find many pictures of it anywhere. They literally put that sucker in the bar coming out of my mouth. I mean, it was bad. But it was all because I wouldn't cooperate. And my daddy was not going to waste their money. And, so orthodontics are not magic if I'm not cooperating as a patient. And counseling isn't magic if people are not able to cooperate for the long haul. So what do you do, or what lines do you draw when you are looking for cooperation from the client, from the family?
Well, in one of our conversations, you might remember, you have to capture the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll hear me say this over and over. It's about relationship. One size does not fit all. So where I might draw the line with you, Pastor Stanford, it may be different from you, Pastor Johnson, based on the level of need and where you are in that particular situation. As a professional, I've got to build a relationship with you so you'll trust me and you can start making some investment in your own treatment. You've never had this before. You've got this man or woman coming to you, or you going to them, and they're telling you what you should do. And we don't really understand. You're worried about how you're going to feed your kids tomorrow, or that eviction notice on your door, or that pink slip saying you're going to be laid off. So I think where we come to is when you're no longer ready and willing to make the investment, we have done, and I'm working harder than you, and I still see that you're damaging yourself or the other person that we're having, I got to say, okay, I got to pump the brakes and I got to call timeout. What are you going to do? But there's no one size fits all. And those are the things when you are not willing to make the investment, you know, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
So if one of these young clients hits you, is it a sprint to hit them back?
No, you remove things off your desk.
You don't come across that desk.
You remove things off your desk.
Okay.
And you have a very firm, friendly, effective conversation.
Better than me, Doc. I keep them boxing gloves in my pastoral desk with the brass knuckles already built into them, just in case they need an extra holy hit.
Pastor Todd, we talked about it earlier in our opening statement, but I watched the interview, and obviously after R. Kelly was convicted, everybody comes out with a story. But one story that I watched that I really took notice of is, and I'm not a big fan of hers either, but Iyanla Vanzant said that he wanted to come on her show, and after talking with him, she saw there were some things that he wasn't ready to change, and he needed real help. And I think, when you deal with kids, and there's a lot of kids who, for whatever reason, parents may try to make them come, or they just don't want the help. They just don't want to be helped, and they're not trying to build a relationship with you. And they'll just sit there. You know what I mean? You're doing all the talking, and they sitting there, looking out the window and and just mad the whole time. Is there ever a time? And and I think I said it a couple weeks ago. And even now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even know how true it is, but I said that there's no lost causes. There's just not enough long-suffering Christians. How much do we long suffer with people who others may call lost causes?
Okay, again, two different lanes. Me as a professional in the secular world, my suffering has a limit.
Got you.
As a man called of God to seek and save the lost, how long did he endure with me?
Come on, sir.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, is what I doing for that person as a man of God, called of God, is that going to, and I've been walking with him a while. God lets you know how far to go. And one of the things I said, when helping you is hurting me, I got to stop helping you, because that will infringe on my ability to help others.
Wow. Yeah. And that's so very true, that there does have to be some limitations. And I'm almost of the mindset that people have a way of removing themselves from circumstances where they're really not sincere about getting the help. You don't have to worry about them hanging around that long, because quite frankly, half the time the parents will give up before you do. They'll say, okay, that whether it's the time commitment, the cost, the struggles that maybe commence at home after this is over, because we've seen some ugly things as pastors and on the professional side where we try to advise a family to go in a certain situation, and in some cases, at least for a season, it might make things worse for that family because of the rebellion, because of the disputes, sometimes even trying to carry out the practices that they are being advised to try to reframe and reform their behavior with one another. They go home and take them tips, talk about we're supposed to be counting to 3 and everybody's supposed to pass the football around and everybody say what they want, and actually, they having a rough and tumble match in the living room and all this stuff, whether it's pastor said or counselor said. And we've all gotten that phone call or that next meeting where somebody came back and they're pointing the finger at you and them saying, they said at the last meeting, and pastor said at the last meeting that you supposed to such and such, the counselor said you need to be such, and they weaponize our ministries, weaponize unintentionally sometimes. They're not meaning to do it, but they weaponize the treatment, weaponize the ministry, even weaponize scripture to one up each other because they're still in the midst of brokenness. They're still in the midst of dysfunction. And quite frankly, when all you are is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And if any tool you can get, and I've watched people transition from using degrading speech, of course, physical violence or abuse, to literally using their pastor's words as the newest weapon. Now that they're sitting in front of me, now that they've gotten in front of a counselor, now what the counselor said has become their newest tool to poke at each other. So that long suffering, because sometimes we have to watch our own words get manipulated. We have to watch our own treatment get pulled left or right and try to stick with it without going off because we feel like we're being misrepresented, and then Lord knows what they'll walk away and say. I went to that man. Oh man, we all screwed up after I went to see Mr. Baldwin. Boy, I was better off before I met him.
Yeah. Y'all gotta give me a second. I think I drank too much of this.
Okay. Cut your mic off.
Please cut the mic off. Mute him.
No, you're saying good stuff, Pastor, and real stuff. We as people, we do triangulation. Because we do what benefits us. We want to win. So if it means throwing you under the bus or me under the bus, the goal for them is to win.
Right.
To have what they want to have happen, whatever the circumstances is. So it's all about relationship. It's all about being ready to run the marathon. It's about partnering. And as a professional, stay in your lane. I can't counsel all the problems in the world.
Right.
So one of the things we do is, if this is not your specialty, then you refer to someone else who is. And I think what happens is, and a lot of times things happen to pastors, because you're God's man, they think you can handle everything and anything.
Right.
So you have a smorgasbord of problems that everybody wants fixed. And if you can't fix them, like your microwave, get it done well, quick and in a hurry, then they're disappointed. But it goes on and on. So I think if we're going to help our community, I think we have to partner in understanding. I've got to understand your role as a church.
Right.
You have to help me be understood by our community.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we work in tandem with each other.
Now, as we close, I want to talk about this because you're a regional director.
Yes,
we are pastors. One of the frustrations we run into, and let's be candid, is that we're not in this by ourselves. We have staffs, we have volunteers. Of course, in the church world, it's more of a volunteer situation for the most part, but you may have staff. And sometimes everyone who is a part of the work that we're doing does not always carry the same heart, the same presentation, the same expertise or professionalism. Maybe the heart is there, the sincerity is there, but the skill isn't. The professionalism isn't. Have you ever found yourself wishing that you could intervene? And I'm sure you do if you need to, but you just wish, even in a counselor's best judgment, that they had gone in a different direction with the family, or they had represented the organization or themselves to a situation in a different light, and you almost see a missed opportunity there because you're like, oh man, you know what? It didn't have to go that way. I think we could have got a positive result. I think we could have kept engaging this family, but you can't be everywhere. You can't do everything, and everyone doesn't always share your heart. Let's be honest. Counseling is a job, and a lot of people look at it as a job.
Two things. You're right. One of the things I tell my staff and those above me, fish stinks from the head.
You write that down for a sermon. Just wait a minute while I write this down.
So if the head is stinky, the body is going to stink.
Absolutely.
And I share with my team, for our clients, nothing matters to your client until your client know that they matter to you.
Wow.
And that's what you have to do if you want to be successful. I also work at one of the universities, and I teach in the social work department. And I tell people, I love the profession. I love teaching. I want to help people become better practitioners in the field. But I also want to help those who don't have the heart for it. I want to help develop you out of it. Because you give our name a bad rap.
Right.
Now, I am not the Red Cross. I'm not a professional rescuer. But I am a professional partner who can help you in a crisis situation under the mental health umbrella.
Right.
And you know, both of you, you're leaders of an organization. Everybody doesn't function like you. You do it as much as you can, and you check. And if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So you get some ducks on your team.
Right.
So you have to let them go when you find out that they're a duck. I can't.
This ain't for you. You got to tell them this ain't for you.
No. You either develop up or you have to develop out.
Wow, that's good.
I love it. I'm writing that down for a church meeting. Go ahead, Jeff.
As we get ready and come to a close tonight, Mr. Baldwin, I want to tell you, I love that, what you just said. Fish stink from the head, but as a father and with a newborn baby, I'm learning that babies stink from the bottom. So I'm just learning. I'm learning.
And that's all that stinky is good for you.
Right.
Because you know you'll keep it at the bottom and you won't let it get up to the head.
That's it. Keep it out the head. Keep it out the head. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely. I mean, Mr. Baldwin, I enjoy talking with you. We have discoursed many times before. We have been unpacking this. And I don't think it's an accident that while we have new platforms, like Religiously Incorrect, to talk about things that don't normally get spoken about in church, and there is a time for heaviness, there's a time for lightness in talking about things. But I'm grateful that in this era of different platforms, that we're also able to approach different subjects. and we're able to talk about it. We've, like I said, it's not the first time, but you've talked about a more holistic family side and partnership between agencies like yourselves and what we do. And I have no problem. I know Jeff shares the same heart that I do. We really are kindred spirits in a lot of things, and that we commit with anybody and everybody who wants for the betterment of our community. We know that Jesus saves and sets free, but you still need to get your mind and your emotions in check. And as we're doing the ministry side and the Holy Spirit is prayerfully doing his work, and I'll go so far to say, this might be crazy for people to hear a preacher say, but if you never become a Christian, I still want you to be sane. I still want you to be stable in your life. It's just better for everybody that our families have some wholeness and healing. And as much as I believe the ultimate healing comes through Jesus Christ, I would not deny anybody, nor would I lack in encouraging anybody to seek the help they need, whether they want to believe in my Jesus or not. Matter of fact, I'll say it like this: the more their mind gets right, the more receptive they might be to the word of God anyway. So I would rather that family become whole, issues become addressed, those elements in the family, those issues that have come up, begin that journey of guided healing and guided, leading to where they can cope and eventually conquer the things that have been probably plaguing them for generations. There's nothing better than seeing a generation break a stronghold or a pattern, and then they're able to raise or move forward with their family and move forward with their children in a new reality. And that's what Pastor Jeff is speaking of. As much as we clown Jeff, because we do clown Jeff as the hugger, me and the boys, we always joke about Jeff. Jeff's testimony is not lost on us whatsoever. That's because we're friends. We're friends. And the fact that he is creating a new reality with his son means that his son will go in his child when he has children. When is Christian having a baby? A year or two? When he has a baby in a year.
You were doing so good. You were doing so good, sir. You were doing so good.
And then it just went that way. Then it just went left. Hey, I ain't preaching. I can say what I want. But no, for real, Christian will not know anything but a loving father. That's amazing. That's amazing to consider in one generation. I want y'all to hear me. Here's the preaching part. You really can completely change your reality.
Yes, sir.
You really can. And my boy, Pastor Jeff, is an example of that. And I know that the services that you offer on the ministry and professional side both speak to that. You can truly break this. And I don't even think it's helpful, and I'll end on this. I don't think it's even helpful to just use cheap labels in a cheap manner, like, oh, it's just a generational curse, or it's just a this is that. That could be very relevant, but it's not if you're not putting the work in. Because when you talk generational curse language, then you like Disney-fying the situation, and all you need to do is find the right key or rub the right genie's lamp, and it'll go away. And I think you have to be careful the terminology you use. These are generational patterns, generational norms, generational behaviors, and it takes work to undo that, to reverse that.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. My wife all shared with me, labeling is disabling.
Ooh, type that one in too.
And it's so true. And the one thing, rearing my son the best way I knew how, and I'm so proud of him today. He's a successful businessman, great father. Of course, my daughter has done well, sits on the bench. But when God answered my prayer as a father, and I wanted to be the kind of father that my son would feel good about. And when he told me a few years ago that I was his best friend.
Wow.
That made all the difference in the world. And told me I needed to help him be the kind of father that he had.
Wow.
So, Black men, we just got to keep loving our sons.
That's Judge Baldwin to you, by the way. You got corrected online. That's Judge Baldwin.
Okay, Judge Baldwin.
One of our viewers said that's Judge Baldwin.
Judge Baldwin, you're right. I stand corrected.
Now it does help being a counselor where you can just threaten to throw him in court with your daughter, right? You'd be like, yo, you don't want to listen? I'll just call.
She would hold me in contempt. Okay?
She'd hold you in contempt.
So I don't go over there. I stay on my lane.
Hey, Elder Baldwin, real quick before we close, before we bring Big Mike in, if somebody wants to use your services or use the services you have, is there a extension, a number, a place, a name?
Yes. You can give me a call at the Village Network, area code 330-743-1015. Again, 330-743-1015. Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Let's bring in Big Mike. We really appreciate the conversation. Big Mike, our producer.
Thing.
What's that?
Our last sponsor.
Oh, yes. We almost forgot. From the Phillips Care family of businesses, they are the new owners, Phillips Care Training, that is. Phillips Care Training are the new owners of High Street Fitness in Cortland. If you want to get your body right for Halloween, maybe you want to fit into your sexy nun costume for the trunk or treat.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at you, Mike.
Come on, man.
Listen,
really? Already?
Mike already has his costume on. Mike is Mike is a mad scientist. Mike is a villain in a new Marvel movie.
Get off me, man. Get off me.
The glass dome.
Oh
Mike. If you want to get yourself right for Halloween, Thanksgiving, make sure you connect with Phillips Care Training. They are proud sponsors of Religiously Incorrect. We have talked about getting right for summer, but it's already past summer and it's already too late for Columbus Day. So get your body right for trunk or treat, I guess. I think that's what's next. And you can tell I'm saved because I can't say trick or treat. I only say trunk or treat. That's how saved I am. Come on, Big Mike. How you doing?
Hey, Big Mike, who we going to have next week? I know you can see it.
Oh, yeah. He already there right now.
Hold on. Let me see.
Now go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Mr. Baldwin, thank you so much for coming on, man, sharing your expertise and your advice for everybody, man. Really appreciate you taking out the time.
Thank you.
Blessing us with all the information. There was one question that was posed. Now, I'm a believer in hurt people. Joseph Napier, I think I pronounced his name right. He asked a question. Hold on, let's see here if I can find it. Can you speak about adverse childhood experiences and trauma? He didn't really go into depth or detail about it, but how do you deal with someone who, there's deeper situations, there's deeper experiences, but they refuse to talk about them? How do you get that out of them to kind of help them, I guess, so to speak?
And I know this sounds very simplistic, but you have to spend time building that relationship and the trust to walk alongside them, for them to share the adverse experience, for you to understand, to identify the trauma.
Gotcha.
Our kids live in adverse conditions that they have become conditioned, and some of them don't recognize that they've been traumatized.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, establishing the relationship, and you can't move a person faster than they're ready to talk about that adverse experience, because you don't want to reopen the wound, and you can't start helping them with the healing process. We think about rape victims all the time. We think about physical abuse all the time. How about the kid who established a relationship in this neighborhood with a family that he trusts, who used to take care of the kid after school, and they're moving every 30 days. They're experiencing loss.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's traumatic to them. So we can't put adverse experience under one caption. It's what was adverse to that kid.
Wow.
What traumatized that kid?
Gotcha.
We try to, use a broad paintbrush and believe in, okay, you're in this category, you're in this category. No. You have to teach me how to help you. Gotcha. It's about trust and relationship. And it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Gotcha. It takes time.
Yes, sir.
I can dig it.
I apologize, y'all. Can I ask one more question? I know we got to go.
Go to it.
But do you have in your catalog of all you do you have something that says, I can't save everybody?
No.
I can't. Okay. And the reason I asked that question is because I had a member and he came to church. This is Sunday morning service. And you could tell he was just going, you could tell he was just out there. He was crying the whole service. And he wasn't a member who cried all the time. Come to find out that his uncle had got shot. After church, I went up, I prayed with him. I talked to him, I said, you need anything? Let me know. The very next night I get a call. I'm at work midnight saying this individual went out and shot the person that shot their uncle. I done it, I'm saying I done as much as I could. I done the praying. I said, you need anything, call. But yet and still, I feel like I should have done more. But I can't save everybody. You know what I'm saying?
No. And I think there are conditions in life that we've all had them. If we haven't had them, you keep living, you're going to have those. But no, we don't have a clause that we can't save everybody, because that's already telling me if I have that clause, I'm operating from a defeatist position. Okay. Defeated. My goal when I go in, I'm going to try to save everybody. Amen. Now, if I miss some, it's not because I'm not trying.
There you go.
Okay. When I don't try, that's when I'm a failure.
Right.
Okay.
I love it.
Real quick. Mr. Baldwin.
Yes, sir.
We had a VIP viewer tonight, Mr. Anson Dawkins from Dawkins and Dawkins. Are you related to him?
He was one of my young people. Anson and I, great relationship. He calls me Uncle Chuck.
Okay.
We sang together, traveled together with Vicky Winans and the whole nine back in the day.
Y'all were Dawkins and Baldwin until they put you out the group.
You know how that was. I lost my hair. He laughed at me, but look at his hair now.
Oh Lord, there it is.
No, he's a great young man, and I'm very proud of him. I love him dearly.
Yeah. We actually had him on earlier this year.
Yeah,
and I had put the ad on the Instagram page, and he commented, "Unc,"
Yes.
So, and then we were, going on with the interview. He actually chimed in a couple of times. So I just had to bring that up real quick.
Well, that Anson and I love him dearly. Yeah,
good.
That's my guy. That's my nephew. Okay.
That's what's up. All right, Jeff. Who we got next week?
Next week, we have Apostle Robert Jenkins. Most of you know him. He is from the Warren area. He's a native of Warren. I think he stays in New Orleans now. We're going to be talking about cyber sanctuary. We're going to be talking about those of you who like to sit at home and watch church. Amen.
All of y'all. Not my members. Not my members.
We're going to be talking about the pros and cons. We're going to be talking about what's good and what's negative and how cyber churches have taken off. And we're going to talk about all that stuff next week. So I think it's going to be a great episode. He is a phenomenal preacher and pastor, and who dons very huge numbers every morning. Matter of fact, he preaches Monday through Friday every morning. So we're going to be talking to him next week. So y'all tune in, and I think it's going to be a great show.
All right. That's all I got, fellas.
Man, I'm grateful for the talk, the time. I'm excited about what God is doing, in your life, Brother Baldwin, and in the way that we are continuing to open up doors for people in our community to receive the services. So, Pastor Jeff, I almost called you Pastor Mike. So I guess your mom gonna be shouting on Sunday. Your mom gonna be shouting on Sunday when she Pastor Mike.
Pastor Mike, you look like Pastor Mike now.
Yeah, right. Don't he look like Pastor Mike? He looked like the evangelist Michael Jameson Marsh of the First Ecclesiastical Jurisdiction.
Yeah, all right.
Listen, don't worry, we'll have more next week. Don't worry, we'll have more for you next week. Hey, y'all, everybody in Religiously Incorrect Land, be sure to like, follow us, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Share this with your friends. These are not only funny conversations, but needful ones. And we'll look forward to another great one next week. So until next time, I need to go see what Tom Brady's doing to the Patriots, because I'm sure he's torturing them. Until next time, thank you, Mr. Baldwin, again. Peace out.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Much love to you.
Until next time, Sunday night service.
See y'all next week.